So guys, welcome back to the Process of a Pro series. In today's video, I want to go over exactly how you guys can learn to be a very exceptional fragger within your competitive Fortnite games. So I used to make all of these videos back in the day about how to be a good fragger, how to W key, except the world has really changed in Fortnite. A lot of the different mechanics, play styles, different aggressions, including stuff like the zones, all of those types of things have changed, so you need to adjust to them and learn how to be a better fragger. Now be sure to use code Sonata YT in the Fortnite item shop if you guys do want to support me and what I do here on the channel. Let's hop right into this video. So I'm going to be separating this video into two sections, which is going to be the aggressive fragger and then the passive fragger. And believe it or not, there are types of different aggressive and passive fraggers, and you actually can separate them into two separate skill categories. Obviously, there are some people who can do it both, but for different types of games, you're going to be either an aggressive or a passive fragger. So let's start with the aggressive fragger. Now, to define the aggressive fragger, it's going to be a player who wants to get most of their points from eliminations, especially in format-friendly tournaments with high elimination points. These are the types of players that work often on their mechanical skill, aim, piece control, movement. Those are all things that you guys should definitely do, but I'm not going to really be focused on that. I'm more going to focus on the actual nitty and gritty details of being a fragger of this sort. These fraggers need to understand that you must W key people based off the most common rotations out of places. So let's say that you landed a certain POI, you and your duo partner need to be very intelligent in determining when to actually W key people as they rotate out of their POIs. What you don't want to do is go to another POI and then fight another team on their home turf. You want to try to W key them once they're already out of their POI and they're in a little bit more unfamiliar territory. You can also get better flanks, better positioning onto them, especially if you choose your drop spot wisely. You need to learn the different rotations of these people, and you need to learn when they happen because they have changed, obviously, since the zones have changed. If you guys don't know, the zones changed once at the start of the season. Now there are 12 different zones slowly closing in, and then they recently changed it even more to now where there's a point of a player cap, and once the player cap has been reached, the zones will start shrinking, so obviously the zone times have been a little bit shifted now. Another really important part of being an aggressive fragger is that you need to be intelligent during fights and work on taking as little damage as possible while dealing the most damage to the opponent. Now this can oftentimes be achieved by learning smart peaks, understanding how to use piece control in fight, and having overall experience from arena, zone wars, and any other game modes. But now let's focus in on different parts and times in the game and how you can actually be good fraggers in those specific parts. Now, during the early game, it's not really common that you guys are going to go out of your way to actually get frags. You guys will just try to clean up your drop spot. Once you clean up that drop spot, that's going to be your eliminations for the early game. In the mid game is one I went over before. That's going to actually be the time where you're trying to go around to different POIs, intercept people trying to rotate out, and then try to W key and eliminate them. You need to be smart during that time. Remember, try to eliminate the option of getting third-partied, but even if you do, make sure that you're actually able to win the fight based off of your mechanical skill. Fraggers need to be very good fighters. They need to have really good mechanics. They need to be very smart and aware during fights. Your awareness needs to be on point here, and the way you can improve stuff like that is generally just by playing the game more like arena. A lot of people are like, oh, what's the secret to how to become a better fragger? There is really no secret, you just need to play the game more. And for the end game, I think it's really important that you guys follow your IGL, learn how to rotate throughout the end game, and then learn where and how to take peeks. You guys need to learn what types of peeks to take, not to reveal yourself too much to different angles. And when you are spraying somebody, make sure that you're only focusing on them and nobody else can really third party you in the same way. Also, if you guys are trying to jump into a box, you need to make sure that you're trying to do it in very intelligent ways that they won't be able to see with your duo partner, because a 2v1 or a 2v2 is always better than a 1v1 or a 1v2. It's a lot smarter if you guys do that. So just generally during the end game, it's important that you guys stay aggressive, but also make sure that you take smart peeks. Try to focus on people on the low ground layers, because low ground layers are going to be a lot weaker. Oftentimes they're going to tend to have lower mats, lower amounts of health, and obviously focus on trying to get people down into your box, maybe spray them down, maybe edit them down, do a pre-fire, do a pre-edit on them. Any of those options right there are actually very intelligent for actually getting eliminations in the end game. Now let's focus on what the aggressive fraggers as pros do. In terms of what the pros do, they will oftentimes practice being an aggressive fragger by playing arena, playing scrims, but making sure that they W key during the endgame, trying to get high elimination points. Also doing the same thing in stuff like solo cash cups, which oftentimes are considered better practice than actual professional tournament. Or if they're not playing any of those, they're going to be PGing, playing zone wars, still fighting, or playing a ton of creative. These players are always able to actually find a way to fight their enemies, whether that's fighting their friends in creative, fighting opponents in arena. They're always getting some fighting practice in, and that's an extremely important aspect of being an aggressive fragger. If you want to be like a pro, you need to do exactly what they do. You need to train like them. So that's really important for being a fragger. But overall, what you guys should take away from this section is that what is most important for aggressive fraggers, you need to get all of these eliminations. You cannot die to any of these opponents. So you need to actually be able to handle your fights and you can practice that by doing arena, zone wars. Then you also need to make sure that you're not eliminated yourself. This means that it's very important that you guys win the vast majority of your fights. You can't be really losing very much because then this whole play style doesn't really work. So after you guys have perfected your fighting skills, that's when you really come to this section and understand everything I've said before. But now that's the aggressive fragger, let's move on to the passive fragger. So to define a passive fragger, it's somebody who wants to get more eliminations but still wants the benefits of placement. So examples of some passive fraggers. In my opinion, the best example of a passive fragger is going to be Mr. Savage. He's very good at being able to play placement and ride out the rest of the end game, but also being able to get eliminations if he needs them, or if he's low on points and realizes that he needs to drop a high kill game. To be a passive fragger, you need to definitely work on your fighting, but primarily focus on defensive fighting. So in arena, if you guys are practicing, you can land these really stacked POIs, the ones with a lot of players like Mega City, but then I'd recommend that you guys kind of just go about your business, go on looting, and then if somebody W keys you, then you definitely take the opportunity to play defensive and then turn that defense into offense. Something you need to understand that's really important is that you need to rotate first and W key second. What this basically means is that you should only go for a fight if you deal a lot of damage or if you absolutely need to go for this fight. Ideally, you should be fighting people that are vulnerable position-wise. So for example, if you're running around, if you're rotating and somebody, you can see them in a bad position, somebody that's kind of chilling in a small part of zone with no real exits to their area, you can kind of W key them, and then that's an ideal fight for a passive fragger. You're going to be refreshing on loot, materials, resources. It's a general really smart idea. You guys definitely need to learn the different places where people will rotate based upon the zone that they would be in protected areas. So basically what I mean by this is that you guys need to find areas that fights won't be third-partied or in which they won't try to run very easily. There's a very solid amount of area like that on the map. You guys just need to make sure that you're actually finding it and you're actually abusing it to the best of your ability. If these opponents that you're fighting do end up running, let them go. Be smart, not greedy. It is critical that you guys understand not to chase people around the map because that's how you end up being eliminated by somebody who's a third party. Now, being able to actually find these opponents, W key them, and get in and out quick, this can be achieved by practicing defensive peaks and fights. What you guys can do is you guys can go into creative, you can go into realistic 1v1s, you can go into different edit courses and practice your different edits that are very smart peaks. So stuff like peanut butter, stuff like window edits, practice your movement, that's critical. Your goal in this fight is to make sure that once you're evenly matched, you're playing defensive. As soon as you get any variety of a tag onto the opponent, you need to ensure that you start W keying and turn your defense into offense. You can learn how to do that by playing arena, playing zone wars, or just generally watching professional players that do the same thing. And so in terms of what passive fraggers can do during the different stages of the game, in the early game, nothing really. Kind of just win your off spawn fight if you have one and then try to rotate out. During the mid game, if you guys see somebody and you get a really high beam on them or you actually focus on fighting them, you get different piece control aspects on them, then you can W key them and try to win the fight quickly. But once again, you need to make sure that it's in an area where people will not try to third party you. In the end game is where passive fraggers can truly shine because you guys are going to be within your box, you're going to be rotating around your tarp. What you guys can easily do in order to make sure that you actually pop off in this end game is you guys can try to get different tags onto people, weaken people a lot, and then calm for your duo to come with you, and then you guys can double team them. I'd recommend you never try to take on a fight alone. Always focus on breaking people down, trying to never leave your box, but making people come into your box and try to eliminate them. Because not only will you have piece control, you're also going to have your duo partner with you. So overall, that means kind of stay close to your IGL, stay within your own tarp, and have people come to you rather than you going to them. But if you guys do absolutely need an impact frag, that's obviously a different story. Try to look at low ground, try to look around for weaker players. That is a whole separate topic, and I hope you guys understand that. Now, what the pros do, people like Mr. Savage, as I mentioned before, they will have situations in which they are playing defensive, and then they will transition that defensive fight after they get a tag into playing offensive. And also the way they decide if they need to take fights, Mr. Savage generally says that what he tries to do is as stated in this clip.
My playstyle is like, I like playing passive. If I feel like I can get a kill somewhere, then I usually go like all in on it. I only try and take fights when I actually need someone else's gear.
Mr. Savage will take this mentality and then implement it into his tournaments quite a bit. It's very intelligent the way he does it. I really adore the way he plays. However, something that's the most important thing for passive fraggers is that you need to prioritize staying alive first, and then getting elimination second. This will result in you getting all of the placement points that you want, while also getting an adequate amount of kills if you actually need them for the placement heavy tournament. Oftentimes you'll see players like these playing these heavy tournaments like FNCS. This is probably, in my opinion, the most successful player within FNCS because they actually know how to fight and they know how to play. So if you guys choose to be a passive fragger, I highly recommend it. It does take a bit of a learning curve though, and I know you can do it as long as you follow the tips that I mentioned before. Anyways, guys, that is the video on exactly how to frag like a professional Fortnite player. I really enjoyed making this video. I enjoyed talking about the new style of Fortnite competitive. This game is always changing and it's always adapting to the different updates and changes. I enjoy it a lot right now. I hope you guys are doing the same. But that's about it for this video, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.